Generally, people who feel like they give a about way too many things, it's not an issue about the caring, it's the extent of how much they care. It's not about not giving what other people think. It's about finding something that is more important than what other people think. If you don't have anything more important going on in your life, then what other people think about you is going to dictate everything else.
Mark Manson, the best-selling author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a is here today to break down how to stop faking confidence and start earning it. You'll learn the psychology behind real self-belief, why trying to feel good all the time is actually what's holding you back. If you've ever second-guessed yourself or talked yourself out of taking a shot, this episode is your playbook for unstoppable confidence built from action, not affirmation.
The more you try to feel confident all the time, the more aware you become of all of the different areas that you're actually not confident. It's when you stop trying to be confident all the time that you actually feel comfortable in your pursuits, knowing that it might not work out, which is confidence.
If confidence is really just the comfort with failure, then how do you get more comfortable with failure?
I will say this, I would say probably...
I hate this answer. If you want to change your life right now, these are the habits that you need to start adopting. What are they?
I think it's...
I want to start with some of my favorite tweets of yours.
Okay.
I just went down a deep rabbit hole on...
Sure.
I haven't been in your tweets in a minute. I guess it's called
Cody.
X's. I don't even know what we're doing. I know. And so there were a bunch. You had one that you pinned that's like a new favorite of mine, which is you said, paradoxically, the less you try to convince people to like you, the more likable you become. Is that true, and why?
I think when people try to make you like them, when they try to control your reaction to them, it is like inherently off-putting. I think we generally respect people who respect our agency, right? So if I come in here and I just start saying all the things you want to hear and trying to impress you and like be like all what I think you want to see, it actually puts a lot of pressure on you to make me feel happy and okay. And paradoxically, that makes you feel bad. So,
and do we not even realize that? Like, do you think people don't even realize the things they're doing to turn off other people?
I think so. If you think about it, it's like a very childish kind of tactic. Like, I think when we're young, it's intuitive. It just feels intuitive of like, oh, I want people to like me, so let me just like agree with what everybody says. At some point that stops working and you kind of realize you're like, oh, I'd rather be disliked for who I am than liked for something I'm not. Right? Because you start feeling like even if you do get somebody to like you, it feels icky, and it doesn't feel like you're being appreciated for who you authentically are. So, and I think this takes place in a lot of. I mean, obviously this is like a social phenomenon, but people do this in dating. People do it with coworkers. They do it in business. It's like all the ass kissing, the yes men. Like it backfires eventually.
It's interesting because we've had many a walk on Venice Beach Boulevard or whatever that is, the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons, I like talking to you so much is you have this weird experience, which is that you've been on the internet for how many years now?
I published my first blog post in 2007.
In 2007. Yeah. And you've obsessed kind of this entire time in varying ways, it seems to me at least, about human psychology, and once through the lens of like men and dating, and you saw one whole era, which was like the how do I get girls to like me era, right? And then you went through an era of like, I don't care if anybody fucking likes me, fuck all of you guys. And also, how do I become confident with that and whatever? And so I've really appreciated your advice. So I'm excited that you're here because, man, we've both met a lot of people on the internet.
Yeah.
Some of the advice is like, sounds really good, that it's terrible advice.
Oh, yeah.
And you have like a very strong moral compass.
Yes.
An ethical and moral lens, which you're like, no, I will not give that advice anymore because it's not real.
Yeah.
Or, oh, hey, I did mess up on that. Sorry about that, which is also really rare on the internet. So I want to go through like a bunch of questions that I think about and then a bunch of questions from people who are listening. And I want you to take it through like a couple different eras. Okay. Like even the era of like, now we're almost back again to how do I get women to like me? Because
it's been weird, honestly.
Right?
Like it's funny because I self-published a men's dating book back in 2011. And I just thought that era of my life was closed. And it's funny because like Gen Z men are showing back up. And that book's starting to sell really well again.
No way.
So it's
Wait,
like
what was that one called?
It's called Models Attract Women Through Honesty, and I really wrote it to kind of be the antidote to all the pickup artist stuff back in the day, you know, like, dude, you don't need to wear a fuzzy hat and like do magic tricks in a bar. Like you can just be a good human being. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's kind of catching a second life with the next generation.
Yeah, because they're having less sex.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a
Dating's
mess.
a mess right now. Yeah.
What is out there in dating right now? What are you hearing from your millions of followers on all different platforms?
From what I can tell, so I have a couple theories, but like I would say the primary one is I personally think that the apps are negative ROI for people's dating outcomes.
Well,
and it's primarily because they're optimizing for the wrong things. If you think about it, like I don't know how long you've been with your husband, but like if you think back to when you were single, you probably had the experience of you would often meet somebody and it wouldn't immediately occur to you, like you wouldn't immediately be attracted to them. Like maybe you would talk to them for a little bit, get to know them, and then they kind of like they'd win you over. Like you'd have to like kind of warm up to them a little bit. And the reason that happens is just that like we're poor judges of who's going to make us happy in a relationship. Like we often don't understand the traits in a person that is compatible with us. And so when you get on an app, the app asks you for all these superficial traits that you want. It's like, oh, I want somebody who's, 6'5" in finance and like all this stuff. And it's like, it's all the resume shit that doesn't actually generate any sort of chemistry or connection with somebody. Whereas all the things that actually do matter, the personality traits and the background and the personal values and how the person experiences intimacy, the sense of humor, like all those things, they're hidden. So you can't match for those things. You have to meet the person first to understand if you actually have those things, if you're compatible with the person in that way. So I just think the dating apps have sorted for the wrong thing. And it's a classic case of people also not, because people don't know what they want, the dating apps are supplying a demand that is actually not solving the people's problems.
Oh, man. So, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, everything you're talking about is about this. Like people want to find love because they're chasing happiness. People want to find relationships because they don't want to be alone. Like it's all sort of about what do we want as a human? It's like part of this human experience. And I'm wondering, like, I don't know. I think I read somewhere that you had written between books and blog posts. It was something wild. You're like 17,542 blog posts. I don't remember the number, but it's a lot. And one of the lines you said is that real success isn't actually about making money or being happy. What do you mean by that?
Both money and happiness they're like oxygen. When you don't have any, they solve everything. But when you have some, it solves nothing, right? So yeah, if you're broke, go get some money. Like that's definitely going to solve your problems. And if you're really miserable or depressed, then like, yeah, obviously get some happiness. But if you're already kind of at a steady baseline, like you're in a stable position, chasing more, it's inefficient in a lot of ways. Like it's not actually going to satisfy you in any meaningful way. I personally think that like on the long term, like if you look at if you zoom out and look at your entire lifespan from beginning to end, the best way to define success is simply to feel as though you spent your time well. It's the old deathbed question, right? It's like when you're 80 and laying on your deathbed, are you going to look back and say like, I'm glad I did that? Or are you going to say like, wow, I wish I didn't do so much of that? And to me, that boils down to meaning and purpose. Right? If you have meaning and purpose, if you are finding something meaningful and purposeful in your life to pursue and to chase after, whether that's building something or, starting a family or giving yourself to a cause, generally speaking, like that's the sort of stuff that decades later we look back on and we're like, I'm really glad I spent time doing that.
And do you think this is like a global phenomenon? Like you went to and spent time in the happiest country in the world, right? What did you find? Like, what do the happiest people in the world have? Or was it something totally else you found there?
Well, the funny thing, so technically the happiest country in the world is Finland. And if you talk to the Finnish, they're like, what? Really? And the conclusion I came to is that I think Finnish culture has they have this ethos of kind of low expectations, which is very opposite of how Americans are. But there's this sense of just being satisfied very easily. Like it's kind of a good thing to be satisfied. And I think that there's some wisdom in that, right? Like this isn't to say that you shouldn't chase things or you shouldn't have goals or dreams or whatever, but it's also like have those goals and dreams, but also while understanding that they're not going to solve anything. Like it's a fun game you're playing. Chase after that 10-year goal. Hopefully you achieve it. That's great. But just understand that like once you get on the other side of achieving it, you're still going to be the same stressed, anxious person who has problems and gets in fights with his mother. And it's all you're going to be the same person with the same shit going on. So you need to like ultimately find something that's worth the struggle. That feels like it makes the struggle worth it.
When you're talking to, like, I think predominantly a lot of young men on the internet, and I love your YouTube videos, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you have quite a few where you talk about the habits that lead to like successful or happy lives. I know there's no hacks to any of this. And at the end of our 3-step process, their life will probably be totally fixed.
Yeah.
But if you had to give somebody, man, if you want to change your life right now, if you want to be more successful in life, these are the habits that you need to start adopting. What are they?
If I had a 16-year-old in front of me and my job was to optimize them to have the most healthy and successful life possible, I would actually start with social skills. Because it's on the psychological side, like pretty much all of the research around happiness essentially boils down to the quality of your relationships. Do you have people in your life, A, and then do you have trusting, intimate relationships with those people? Like, do you have people in your life that you feel like have your back, that you can trust, that you can go to with a problem, who aren't going to judge you for making a mistake? And on the psychological side, that's like the 80-20. And then on the professional side, as you know, like relationships are also everything. Like it's nobody ever did anything great by themselves. Like there's no incredible successful business story that they did it alone. It's like you either built an amazing team or you had an amazing team of people backing you and helping you and supporting you.
Yeah, I was reading a study the other day about how there's something like 20 to 30% increase in salary just from thinking about increasing your EQ and really ignoring IQ, that IQ almost has no correlation between monetary success.
Yeah.
Do you find also in personal relationships, like I think a lot of people these days, some of our top videos on YouTube lately, I was talking to the team about them. They're all about confidence. And I thought that was really interesting because I feel like confidence usually goes away when you or a lack of confidence goes away when you work a lot.
Yeah. Like
the more you work, the more confidence I have. I rarely am like, we're not going to be able to do it. I'm like, we probably haven't prepped. We haven't done sufficient things in order to have this outcome.
Right.
And so I'm not confident we're going to hit it.
Yeah.
But it does seem like we have like a confidence crisis.
Yeah.
Do you see that with a lot of people saying, I do not feel confident in myself. I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't believe in myself. I have imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I feel like people definitely feel more scrutinized and judged these days. And I think a lot of that is just how online and permanent everything is. You know, I think when you and I were young, if you kind of made a fool out of yourself, people would forget about it within a week or two. Now it lives forever on the internet and people can it's just everybody has a phone in their pocket. So it's anything dumb you do or say can potentially last forever. So I just think people have become much more risk averse and they haven't built that muscle of taking risk. But the other thing too is I think, I've always said that confidence isn't about believing you're going to achieve success. It's a comfort with failure. It's knowing that you're going to be okay if it doesn't turn out okay. Like that's actually what makes you confident in a situation. It's like, I'm going to take a stab at this. And if it doesn't go all right, that's fine. I'm going to learn from it. Right. And I just think a lot of people have that backwards. So they focus on like the guaranteeing of success. And so they become a perfectionist and they try to control everything, which then just makes them more anxious and more stressed out. And they get into kind of a downward spiral.
That's a good point. I was really struggling to like nail what confidence is exactly the other day. We were literally just talking about it and whether that's inherent or not. But if confidence is really just the comfort with failure, then how do you get more comfortable with failure? Again,
by failing.
I hate this answer. I hate this for me. I hate this for everybody listening. Is this the
sorry, everybody.
Is there not a 3-step framework? God damn it, Mark.
Sorry, but
really, like, okay, so let's get granular then. Like, big failures, little failures, any failures, daily failures,
all the above. And I will say this. I would say probably little failures first. I think it's because big failures, if you're not used to failing and if you're not used to failing publicly, like it can overwhelm you and kind of wipe you out. But yeah, definitely you want to get lots of little failures in, lots of little embarrassments, lots of, coming back to the dating coaching thing. One of the first things I used to tell people is I would say like, how much have you gotten rejected lately? And most people would say not at all because they didn't ask anybody out. And I'm like, well, that's your first problem. Like, go get rejected 5 times and then we can talk about what went wrong, And people just don't think about it in those terms. They just think about it in terms of, give me the thing to say that is going to guarantee that this person likes me. And the world doesn't work that way.
Dude, it really doesn't. And it's almost like that in everything.
It is.
Like it's every answer is actually just, do you want to go get somebody to date you that you like? Go eat shit at least 100 times to find one. Yeah. And it's like, and if you want to get rich, go talk to 100 customers that tell you no to get one. And if you want to buy a business, go look at 100 deals to find one. Like every answer is basically quantity and more. Yeah. And if you don't pile on more pain and failure, you're never going to have the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And what's kind of interesting about you too, like you've done these experiments with people. So as opposed to a lot of people who talk about things online, you're like, all right, I have a theory.
Yeah.
And we're going to go test this theory live and see if the theory actually works and whether it breaks down. And you've done it, as far as I can see, with people who have lost weight, one way or another, people who were scared of failure. Yeah. Like maybe you could talk about one of the times that you walked in a chicken costume down Venice Boulevard, which I remember, and why? Because you put yourself through the experiment first, right?
Yeah. One of the things I've always believed very strongly, like I've never wanted to be the guy on stage, like telling this is what you should do. These are the 5 things that are going to change your life. I've always liked the idea of like, I'm in the trend, I'm in the shit and the muck with everybody else. I go through this stuff too. So in the videos, I do the same. I basically took fans with various anxieties or personal issues and kind of ran them through a gauntlet of different challenges or having them face their fears and whatnot. But I made myself do it too. And it was a good exercise, right? It's like, one is just, I should be able to walk the walk of what I say. But it's also, I think it comes back to like building that, you can call it scar tissue or you can call it the muscle, but it's basically, it's like that accumulation of failures, embarrassments, etc. And it's funny because doing that series of videos, by the time we got towards the end, like I honestly reached a point where I'm like, I don't think there's anything at this point that could embarrass me or scare me.
Careful if you put it out there.
I know. It was funny actually. So we just shot one a few weeks ago, and it was funny. I basically hosted a dinner for a bunch of people in my audience, and worked on a bunch of stuff with them, and then took them outside. And we were on the beach in Malibu, and took them outside, and then had everybody walk on hot coals, and which is like a classic Tony Robbins thing, and it was really funny because the attendees like looked at me and they're like, "Oh, well, you do this all the time, right?" And I'm like, "No, I've never done this before."
You're like, "It might work, you might die."
Yeah, and they were all looking at me. They're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll find out."
You okay?
Yeah, it was fun.
But I like that. I was supposed to go to Tony's show the other week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've never done it. It actually that gives me anxiety. We've got
the fire stuff or being at a
like
Tony Robbins
hugging
seminar.
Random people, jumping up and down, smiling.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm an opt out, and I say that with a lot of love to Tony, who's going to come on the pod, and he was like, "Come," and you know what his selling point was? Be in the front row. I was like, Tony, not a selling point. No. I want to be in the back. I'm unsure about this, But I couldn't end up doing it because I had some health stuff. But I do think that it would have probably been good for me. Because I hate that. I hate the idea of hugging strangers and jumping up and down. And
maybe, it's funny, like a huge part of those seminars is that kind of like synthetic fun. And it's easy. I think it's one of those things where it's like easy for you and me, because I have the same feeling. Like I look at it and I'm like, really? Like, we're going to dance again? Like, what? Come on, man.
No public dancing.
Yeah. It's like, no, I don't want to give another back rub. Like, it's just.
Oh, God, you have to do back rubs?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm good, man. Like, I don't, but it's funny because I think it's ultimately we're not the target market. Like it's, if you think about somebody who's extremely depressed, extremely lonely, like hasn't gotten out much, has kind of lost touch with most of the people in their lives, an experience like that can be very powerful. But yeah, if you do have like a bunch of good relationships in your life, you're pretty happy. Like it is kind of just, it's synthetic fun.
Interesting. So you almost have had to stair step your way up the embarrassment ladder too.
Oh yeah.
You're like, now chicken costume is like, that's a Tuesday.
Oh yeah. I could put one on right now. It's like no problem. But it's like anything though, right? Like, you climb that ladder with money too, right? Like it's like the first time you have a 5-figure deal, you're sweating bullets. Now it's like, you probably don't even get out of bed for a 5-figure deal. So it's like anything in life is like that. You just, you get that progressive desensitization that happens over time.
Yeah, that's probably actually bad in a lot of ways, and why really rich people go crazy.
It can be.
They like can't find the new adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Because you have a line actually that I like, which is like, happiness comes from progress, therefore happiness requires struggle, which I think lends itself to this.
Yes.
Because what if you can't find something to struggle on anymore? What does that quote mean to you?
Well, it's paradoxical because the more successful you become, the harder it is to know what progress is or what progress is worth having. So, and this is why you see, so in my second book, I talk about this, that there's I believe it's called the Easterland paradox in psychology, which is essentially that you find that the poor the country or the poorer the neighborhood, the lower the suicide rate. And the more affluent the country and the more affluent the neighborhood, the higher the suicide rate. And I think it comes from the fact that when you don't have anything in life, like when you're struggling on a day-to-day basis, meaning is very simple. It's like, get to tomorrow. Get the rent paid, get some food on the table. Like there's no ambiguity of what you should be doing to be improving your life. If you're like kicking it in a Bel Air mansion, with like some crazy 9-figure exit or something, and you're 32 and you have nothing to do all day, like that is an existential crisis. Like nobody's going to shed a tear for you, but it's not obvious what progress is. It's not obvious what you should do next. In fact, the fact that you can do potentially an infinite number of things actually makes it even harder to figure out what progress looks like or what you should be doing next. And so you often see, so it's funny, like I don't know if it's a national network or if it's just like a California thing, but there's a network, it's called the Post-Exit Founders Group or network or whatever. And it's, and I've got some friends who are in it, and I've talked to them before and they're like, yeah, dude, it's like when we do our events and everybody gets behind closed doors, it's like half the people there are like in an existential crisis because they just had this massive check hit their bank account and they're not working anymore. And sure, you can like splurge on a boat and go to Greece or something, but like that gets old after a month or two. And then you're just sitting around being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What next?
Especially if like entrepreneurship is a trauma response, which I think it is half the time. I'm like, what sane person would do this? That's not normal. And so if that's true, and so like half the reason you keep going is because you're kind of self-masochistic and you like the, struggle and figuring out what to do next. Yeah. If I only had the option of sipping Mai Tais all day and you got to look at yourself in the eye and nobody else, ooh, that could become problematic.
For sure. It's funny, like one of the most depressed I've ever been is after my first book blew up. And it was because basically everything I'd been working towards the previous 10 years, all happened and got accomplished at the same time. And so then I just kind of sat around being like, well, I guess I'll play some more video games because I don't know what else to do. And it was like a very bleak 6 months. It was very strange, which is weird because everybody's patting you on the back and saying, oh my God, you must be living your dream. And you're like, yeah, this is my dream, but I'm the same dude with the same problems and the same anxieties and the same bad habits. And except now I have nothing to look forward to. I have like no definition of progress in my life.
Buying a business or launching your own venture can feel impossible if you're stuck figuring out the website, logo, email, marketing all at once. But here's the good news. GoDaddy Aero is here to help. So just a few prompts, it builds a professional website, a logo, an email, even social content, all tailored to your business. It's like having a whole launch team in your laptop. Instead of months of grinding, you can go from idea to launch-ready business in minutes. No more waiting, no more guessing, just a real online presence that you can grow with day one. Suddenly, the thing that was just a tiny idea in a notebook is online, polished, and ready to scale. So if you're ready to take your idea to life, head to GoDaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and try GoDaddy Aero today.
That book was so big, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Obviously, we talked about it in the beginning of this, in the intro, but it was so big. It is so big.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most sold nonfiction copies or
like
books of all time.
20-something million copies at this point.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Also an incredible documentary on Netflix. I remember when that came out.
Yeah,
great thumbnail too. Was that you? Weren't you in a floaty at a pool? With
they put me in a pool. There's this like crazy surreal opening sequence that involves me sitting in a pool drinking out of a pineapple while like people die and emergencies happen around me. It's like this very dramatic sequence. It was like 45 degrees in New Zealand when they shot that. So I was freezing my ass off the entire time. But I got to have my little Hollywood moment.
It did not look like that. It looked lovely and happy.
So cold. There was there were a bunch of PAs with like mountains of towels on the side. So as soon as I got out of the pool, they just like draped all these towels over me because I was so cold.
But what's cool about that book that I think is really resurfacing for people, boundaries are really big with the kids these days, not giving a fuck, having confidence. That book, again, is like, I feel like even having another resurgence moment. I'm sure there are many people out there right now thinking about what other people think more than those other people are ever actually thinking about them.
Oh, like all of us.
Right. Like you're talking about me. So the question is,
it's called being human.
The book's not that long, which I also love about it. But if you had to distill for somebody who hasn't read it yet, what do you do when you give too many fucks?
So the paradoxical thing, and this is laid out in chapter 1, is the whole idea of not giving a fuck. It's a bit of a misnomer. Like this idea that things are just going to roll off your back and nothing's going to faze you. There's a word for that in psychology. It's called a psychopath. So we don't want that. You do want to care about things. Obviously, you do want people in your life that you do care about their opinion, right? Like it should upset me if, I don't know, my parents are mad at me. So the question is, how much should we care? So generally people who feel like they give a fuck about way too many things or what way too many people think, it's not an issue about the caring, it's the extent of how much they care. So the point I make in the book is that it's not about not giving a fuck what other people think. It's about finding something that is more important than what other people think. Because if you don't have anything more important going on in your life than what other people think about you, then what other people think about you is going to dictate everything else. And that's just like a shitty place to be. It's nothing good's going to happen. But if you this comes back to the meaning and purpose thing. If you have something very meaningful, something you're giving yourself to, something you're willing to sacrifice for, something you care very, very deeply about, then suddenly it's okay if some people don't like you. It's okay if some people don't get it, if some people judge you or disapprove of you.
So what would you say to somebody that's like, I just want to stop being such a people pleaser?
Find the hills that you're willing to die on. Ask yourself, what are you willing to be disliked for? And for a people pleaser, that's going to be a very hard question to answer. They might not actually have anything that they can answer, and which at that point, your job becomes to find something. Find something you're willing to be disliked for, and then go do it. because that's your thing. That's the piece of meaning and purpose that's going to be more important than other people's opinions. And as long as you're driving towards that, then everything else will kind of fall into place.
What is sort of the right way to respond when somebody else is like coming at you in a boundary way, or when somebody else is trying to make you work outside of something that you feel comfortable with? How do you keep boundaries, but not look like a dick?
I think tactically speaking, it's always great to frame things like rules. So, for instance, if I was like, let's say your producer emailed me and was like, come in at whatever o'clock. And I was like, no, that's preposterous. I refuse. Like, then it creates this ugly situation, right? Whereas if I'm just like, hey man, I have this rule. I don't do interviews after 3 p.m. Sorry, maybe we can find another time. Like when you frame things as a rule, it's like, hey, this is just a rule I have in my life. I just don't do this thing. And it's just to take care of my own health and my own sanity or whatever. People respect it. And then if they don't, it makes it very easy to be like, oh, well, then fuck them. Like they're not respecting my rules, so this is just not going to work out. So I always encourage people, like, frame whatever boundaries you want to have, frame it as a rule. It's like, hey, I don't, I don't talk about this subject with people who aren't part of my family. Nothing personal, And then it's like, then things become very clear.
It's so good because it's shifting the no to you to like, oh no, it's not about you. It's about this thing other here that already exists. It's like you get to use a shadow influence without even having one.
Yeah.
And then you get to deflect in a respectful way whatever somebody else is trying to push on you. That's so good.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is that it also clarifies for you the caliber of the relationship you have, right? Like if the person doesn't respect your rule, then by extension, they're not respecting you. So it makes it very clear of like, okay, I have somebody in my life who doesn't respect me. What am I going to do about that? Whereas if you're kind of in this people pleasing mode and you're like, well, I don't want to upset them, so I'm going to like hint and like maybe like be a little passive aggressive, drag my feet, pretend like I forgot, then you just end up in this like murky gray area where it's like nobody's really happy with how the friendship's going or the relationship's going, but like you're kind of going through the motions, and like it doesn't end well.
Do you think that we are like over labeling ourselves, such as like these days I was like watching something online. It's like, I'm an avoidant. I'm a this. I'm a, I'm with a passive aggressive person. He's definitely a narcissist. Like what is going on with all these labels we're placing on ourselves? Are these real? Are they that black or white?
Yeah, they are real. They're not necessarily black and white. And I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I think it's a sword that cuts both ways. So I do think there is a bit of an over labeling that has been happening. So I'll make the bull case first for all this labeling. And I guess we could call this just kind of like therapy culture in general, So it's like all of the language that permeates TikTok and Instagram and YouTube these days, and people talking, about being neurodivergent and avoidant and attachment types and dealing with narcissists and all this stuff. Like there's all this like kind of clinical therapy language that has entered into the mainstream. So on the one hand, it represents just an awareness of like a lot of these dynamics and issues, right? Which I don't think that's a bad thing. Like if you go back a couple generations, like people just buried shit for decades and it only come
like
out
adults,
after
shove it down.
Just keep shoving it down, and
don't deal with that,
and hope it doesn't come out after 9 or 10 drinks. So I do think it's good that these things are being talked about. The problem is that there's a very fine line between labeling a problem and adopting a label as an identity. So as soon as you adopt a label as an identity, like the way our minds work is whatever I've defined myself as part of my identity, I'm going to defend it and I'm going to become emotionally attached to it. So if I decide that, let's say I'm ADHD, which I am diagnosed as ADHD. But if I decide to make that a core part of my identity, like it defines who I am and my relationships and how I like see the world and interact with the world, then I'm going to start imposing that on all of my experiences and my relationships. And then you get this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, which is that because I'm approaching every experience in my life as like, well, as an ADHD person, I can't really handle this. And as an ADHD person, you need to talk to me this way and not that way. You actually amplify how serious the condition is. Whereas if you just said like, okay, this is a thing I have and I'm just going to manage it and I'm not going to make it part of my identity, you can use that awareness to diminish how much it affects your life. So the problem I see is that adopting these labels as an identity is being rewarded online. And so it's the more it's rewarded, the more people like cling to them, which the worse they feel for having them.
Great point. I've also been diagnosed as ADHD from an online test I did once. And
very clinical.
Yes, it was super. But the best part about the test was at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe it when somebody sent it to me. But at the end, there was a literal link to talk to psychologist. I guess it would have been a psychiatrist because they could prescribe and consider some sort of option, which I believe was some variant of Adderall that I hadn't heard of before. So like, you may need to get on a person with this one and some of your treatment options. So it's like kind of an ad.
Yeah.
And I thought, for the love of all that's holy, in a 15 question interview online, you're going to diagnose me as X thing and give me a pill. Seems flawed.
Yes.
You know?
There's a whole overdiagnosis issue. I mean, and that's just across the board. Anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, like there's probably all of those are being overdiagnosed to a certain extent. I mean, the problem is just, without getting down too much of a tangent, there's always been kind of the pharmaceutical incentive, right, to diagnose people. And I think for many, many decades, the population was underdiagnosed. So like that incentive was aligned with the public good. But I think probably in the last 10 years, 15 years, we're getting to a place where there's an overdiagnosis, and now that incentive is an issue. And then on top of that, you have kind of the social incentives of, well, if I start making TikToks talking about my ADHD, then I'm going to get a following, and all these other ADHD people are going to follow me. Or if I talk about my anxiety disorder or my panic attacks, like all these other people are going to follow me. And then that becomes just a core part of who I am, which psychologically subtly it promotes a greater propensity for anxiety attacks and panic attacks, right? So like self-definition, I probably should have said this earlier, like self-definition has a huge impact on our mental well-being, right? Like there's so much research about this on both good and bad labels. So like, for instance, if you set out and start a new challenge, say it's a business challenge, or it could be anything. It could be running a mile or whatever. Simply deciding, like simply believing that you are capable of doing it, that you will be successful at it, like increases your odds of success substantially. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy aspect of life, right? Like if I tell myself that my new business venture is going to fail, it makes it more likely it's going to fail, because it's going to prime my brain to start looking for all the ways it could screw up. And then when it does screw up, I'm going to be like, see, I always knew it was going to screw up. So it's like, this is why you often see like founders and entrepreneurs are delusionally optimistic and overestimate themselves consistently, because it's actually very useful in a certain context. You see this with the athletes. You generally see this with like a wide range of highly successful people. The opposite of that is true as well. So if you believe, I can't do this because I'm an anxious person, I can't do this because it's going to be too stressful, I'm going to have panic attacks, you make it more likely that you're going to succumb to stress and panic attacks. That's not to say that it's the only thing causing your stress and panic. Like people do legitimately have anxiety disorders and panic disorders and all sorts of things. But the language you use with yourself can move the needle in terms of the likelihood of it holding you back or not. And so the other concerning part of therapy culture is that I think it is subtly reinforcing people to place limitations on themselves. To say, instead of saying, I have ADHD, and well, actually there's a bunch of contexts and situations that ADHD can actually be an asset. It's encouraging people to say, I have ADHD, so I'm just never going to be like a normal person. And there's all these things I can't do. And there's a bunch of things I'm probably going to fail at. And then it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy.
If you're listening, like, how do you integrate this into your life? Like, what should you do instead of labeling yourself as negative things? How do you change and prime your brain so that you can label yourself a winner?
It's a great question. I also think there's potentially issues with labeling yourself a winner. So I'm of the Buddhist school of like, don't label yourself anything. You don't know who the fuck you are. Because when you don't have a label, then your potential is infinite, right? Like you could potentially become anything or anybody you want. So I recommend people shy away from labels as much as possible. And if you do adopt one, like be very conscious of why you're adopting it and like what the consequences of adopting that label are. I'll use kind of a superficial example, or it's not really superficial. It might sound superficial, but it was actually very profound for me. So I started, as we talked about earlier, I started blogging 2007. My first business was dating and relationship coaching. And that actually did pretty well. And I was like happy and like everything was going great. And I decided to write a book to kind of promote my online coaching business. That book eventually became Subtle Art. Subtle Art went on and sold a bazillion copies. And sure enough, next thing I know, all these big book deals are showing up. All these publishers want to work with me. All these like incredible opportunities are knocking on my door. I got to do a book with Will Smith, and it was super exciting. For the next 5 years, I was working just as hard as I had always worked, but it was feeling like, I guess I would say like, it started to feel like a grind. It started to feel like, obviously it wasn't a day job, but like the feeling that people get when you're just doing something for a paycheck, like it started to feel like that towards the end. And it really started to like grind me down, and I got pretty burnt out. And I took a sabbatical in 2022. And my big realization on the sabbatical was like, I thought I was an author. Like all of this shit, all the burnout and the stress and like long miserable hours. The problem was I thought I was an author. I'm an entrepreneur. This is like, I was creating a media and coaching business. I lost track of that because people showed up and started offering me like more money than I'd ever seen in my life to play as an author. And so I told myself, I'm an author. I do author things now. And I started living an author life. And it was like, I don't know, it was like walking around in clothes that are the wrong size. Like it's just very uncomfortable and eventually like starts to wear you down. And so on my sabbatical, I was like, I completely forgot. Like the way I got here is because I'm an entrepreneur. I should go back to being an entrepreneur and building online media and coaching businesses. And that's what I did. And I'm like happy as a pig in shit. So I haven't written a book in 5 years. So it's a simple shift in definition. And I guess my story, like the lesson from that is that it's very easy to unconsciously change how you see yourself based on the financial opportunities that show up. It's very tempting to do that. And I did that, and it like I ended up paying the consequences. So yeah, I'm back to being an entrepreneur, and I'm very happy.
Author.
Yes. Sometimes author.
Well, you are really good at, which is, I think, one of the reasons why so many people follow you online, but why I like talking to you. You're really self-reflective. Like almost every time we've talked, you've been like, I'm thinking about this. I tried this. I didn't like it. Like it didn't sit well with me. And so I thought about it and I changed it. And I think a lot of us in life, we just keep going. We're
Yes.
like, don't pay attention, keep going. And that's why burnout comes. There's
Yes.
no self-reflection. There's no review. But like, you're quite good, I think, at taking a step back and going, okay, let me think about this.
Yeah.
And even a reframe like I did there, you would have been very tempting for you to go like, oh, well, here's how you should label yourself.
Yes.
Like you accept somebody else's frame. It's really hard to not do, especially in an interview.
Yeah.
To go instead, you said dumb question. This is what you should do instead, right? So for somebody listening, what is the way that you should self-reflect to even figure out, oh, I'm unhappy because I've labeled myself improperly?
Yeah. So a drum that I will bang on until my death. I keep pushing this message into kind of the productivity space, and I feel like nobody wants to hear it. But I think it's extremely important. So for people who care right now or in a phase of their life that they care very deeply about success, productivity, achievement, all those things, you have to view your emotions as another system to be managed. Most people just, like you said, push the emotions, they compartmentalize. They're like, we're not going to think about that now. I've got meetings to go to. And you can do that for a while. You can do that for a year, maybe a couple of years, but like at some point it's going to come back and it's really going to bite you in the ass. And I think that the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is that your emotions are another system to be managed. And as soon as you feel yourself getting off track emotionally of like not enjoying what you're doing, not being excited about the people you're working with, not getting along with your team, like these are all signals of like something's off. And sure, maybe it's not showing up on the balance sheet and it's not showing up in the P&L, but like it matters, because if you're miserable, like that's fucking terrible ROI long term. like you don't want to be stuck in a business. You don't want to build your own prison, essentially. So the first thing I would say for people who like, really care about that stuff is like to just acknowledge that this matters, that it does affect everything. And the second thing, I think once you realize that it is an important facet of everything that you're doing, it is another system to be managed, then you can start looking at it and thinking about it like you look at and think about other systems in your business or your career of like, okay, where's the bottleneck? Where's the poor ROI? Like where's the place or the person that I'm putting tons of energy into and I feel like I'm getting very little out? Like it's the exact same principles that you're applying in all these other areas of your life. You can look at your emotional life in the exact same way. In terms of tactically, I think journaling is like by far probably the easiest lift, like the highest leverage activity for people who haven't thought about this stuff a whole lot. Like just, get yourself like a empty notebook and start asking yourself a lot of these questions and really starting with like the basics. Like, what do I feel about this? How am I feeling in this moment? How am I feeling today? How am I feeling about what I'm working on? How am I feeling about the people around me? And then once you've identified those feelings, like ask yourself why. Why do I feel this way? Why does it feel so draining when I'm working on this part of my business or on this part of my career? What is it about it? And then really like explore that, give yourself the freedom to write pretty liberally until you find something.
That's really good. So no screaming manifestations in the mirror. And journal just kind of briefly about the things that we feel and ask why. That seems reasonable for like, internet people.
It's funny too. Like it's such a basic thing. I used to call this the why game. And it's, so you just take something you're struggling with and say like, how do you feel about that? Or like, why are you struggling with it? Take that reason. And then you take that reason and you say, okay, why is that reason a problem? And then you get another reason and you say, okay, why is that reason a problem? And it's just like layers of an onion, and you just keep going. And usually you'll get to a point where it gets circular. And like that circularity is usually like, okay, that's actually the real problem. That's the thing that you actually have to focus on, not this surface layer shit that, you've been thinking about.
That's so good. What, on the same vein, you were talking originally about, hey, like, I think people get this wrong and they're not listening to this, but I'll scream it from the rooftops. What else do you think that young people today just have so wrong?
Yeah. Well, we've definitely hit two of them. Like the failure piece that feels very particular to Gen Z, I think. It's just I'm alarmed by the amount of risk aversion. I think the other thing that people, we talked about boundaries a little bit earlier. I do feel like there's maybe an overcorrection that's happening there. Again, it's great that people are becoming aware of boundaries and speaking up for themselves and being willing to say no. But I think, again, coming back, like there's so much shitty advice on social media that is just like, if they don't respect you, then they can get the fuck out of your life. And it's like, well, no, actually, some people you don't want to do that with, right? Like some people you maybe want to stick it out and try to work with them or put some time into it. I do. There's some alarming. We did a podcast last year on kind of some alarming statistics on people cutting family members out of their lives.
What's happening?
I forget the exact numbers because it's been a while, but it was an episode we did like probably like early 25. And it's shocking. It's way more people than you think. It's something like 25% of Gen Z is like willingly chosen not to speak to at least one parent. A lot of siblings being cut off, a lot of stuff. And again, I think it's like well-intentioned therapy culture type stuff of like, well, my mom is toxic or my brother never respects my boundaries or whatever. And I get where it's coming from, but I also think that I feel like cutting family members out of your life is a move of last resort. Like there's a lot of intermediary steps you can go. You can
doesn't need to be step one.
You can manage exposure to people. You can manage set boundaries around which topics you'll talk with, how long you'll spend with them, what conversations you'll indulge, which ones you won't. There's just a lot of managing that you can do in between.
No, it's so true. I mean, I always go back to the quote. It's like an African proverb about you can either pave the world in leather or you can wear leather shoes. And I think I totally agree with you. Sometimes that person that's problematic is there to teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just avoid everybody that you don't like, or everybody that is even toxic, or everybody that is pushing boundaries, then that means you don't get better at holding them.
Yes.
You don't get better at keeping things out of your perimeter that are toxic because you're so hard to push through.
Yeah.
If you don't allow these people in to teach you lessons in some way, you never get better.
Yeah.
Because you expect the whole world to be paved as opposed to wearing the shoes. And so I think, it's cool because what you're building right now that I want to talk about is a pushback to a thing that scares the hell out of me.
Okay.
Which is, I have like multiple girlfriends who have turned ChatGPT and named it into their therapist.
Okay.
And the problem, as my friend Arthur Book said better than I did, and I'm not going to say it as eloquent, is that he says the problem with ChatGPT is it is a malignant narcissist in that it is just trained to read back to you the things that it thinks that you want to hear.
Yes.
And to agree with you by and large.
Mm-hmm.
And it has no emotion.
Yes.
It is psychopathic in its tendencies. And so what concerns me with some of my friends is these are like amazing people who will tell me that they'll have an argument with a man that they're dating and then go feed their side into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will confirm every single thing that they're doing.
Of course.
And I love you, friends, but some of you guys are fucking psychos too. Like, we can get crazy in relationships, me included.
Of course.
And I'm wrong all the time. And so if I only feed my side in and then ChatGPT is always telling me I'm right, that seems bad.
Yes.
And I don't know, you're the expert in this. Like, what is happening? Is that bad? Should people be using ChatGPT as a therapist? What is your thought? And then I want to talk to you about your counterpoint to it.
Deeply concerned as well. I started noticing in my life, same thing. A bunch of friends, family members started using ChatGPT as a therapist. This is maybe a year and a half ago, I went and started experimenting with it, kind of running some life problems through it, seeing how it responded. And I'll say this, it's very uneven. Like there's some things that it's much better at than say, your average therapist, and then some things it's much worse at. So the thing you pointed out is what it's much worse at. It just validates. It doesn't think critically. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't, it wants you to feel happy. It kisses your ass way too much. The thing that it's good at is it is, in its data set, is the entire wealth of knowledge, the entire field of psychology, essentially. Every research paper is in there. Every finding is in there. Every branch of the topic is in there. I think there's over 3,000 hours worth of therapy transcripts like in the foundational models. So if you get it away from, if you approach it with any problem that's not about validating your feelings, like if you actually ask it for some sort of tangible feedback or advice on a more specific problem, it will actually be extremely well informed on the research in that area, and it will generally give you some good direction and good advice. The problem is that your average layperson has no idea what the difference between those two things is. And so, yeah, that becomes very problematic for sure.
Yeah. And I was reading the other day that like 60% of LLMs are off of Reddit, which is, I think, where dreams go to die. So that like those people being my therapist is my personal nightmare. That would be horrific.
Yes.
But like, I guess my point here is you're building something that's a counterpoint to this.
Yes.
Which is, don't just go to, like, if you actually want to change your life or fix your life, you don't just want to be told you're right. And that's like, my husband and I always say that to each other. We say, do you want to win or do you want to be right?
Right.
And often winning doesn't mean me personally winning. It might mean our relationship winning.
Yes.
You know, do I want our relationship to be good, or do I want to say, you are wrong, I am right, tell it back to me.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, then I guess go to ChatGPT. Yeah. But if not, there's not a lot of other places to go to where somebody will kind of give you a little tough love.
Yeah.
And so you came up with something that I think is really clever.
Yeah. So I felt very strongly. So I felt this tension. I'm like, it's definitely not meant for this purpose, but the potential is there. Like it is trained on so much wealth of psychological knowledge and data. And coincidentally, it was funny. I was actually at a poker game. I sat next to a guy and started talking to him, and his name was Raj, and he founded a AI business. Have you ever checked in a hotel and you get like a text message and it's like an AI concierge? You can say like, oh, I want towels or whatever. So he created that.
He's probably doing okay.
Yeah. He had like a very big exit and took a year off and had just finished his sabbatical, like when he went to that poker game. So I started talking to him. He's like, yeah, I'm just wrapping up a sabbatical. I'm trying to figure out what's next. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, what are you thinking about? And he said, well, I really want to do something in AI mental health. And I was like, no shit. Been thinking about this too. And turns out he had identified the exact same problem. He's like, there's so much potential here, but there's no LLM that has been optimized for it. There's nothing that's been trained for it. There's nothing that's like been specifically created for this purpose. So he and I became co-founders, and we've been working together since February. And as of this week, we were in full V1 launch of our app called Purpose. And the goal of it is to essentially be that counterpoint to ChatGPT. Instead of just trying to make you feel better all the time, the goal is to actually make you better, right? Tell you the hard things that you need to hear, point out your blind spots to you, challenge you on your bullshit, say like, are you really sure about that? Or like, maybe like your shit stinks too. And it's been great. Like it's because here's the funny thing that we've actually noticed with a lot of our early users as well, is that like people are way more honest with an AI than they are with a therapist. Like if I don't know about you, but like my experience in therapy, like it often takes like 4, 5, 6 sessions just to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'll actually say this thing to her, right?
Of course. And you want them to like you more than your partner. I mean, that's like the natural inclination. You're like, he's the, the thing is.
It's all about your perspective.
Right, 100%.
But it's, when it's an AI, it's just like, well, fuck it, whatever. This is what I'm thinking. This is who I'm kind of screwed up, but like, here it is, like it never judges you. It's like, you never have to worry about it. It's going to like hold something against you, or it's like secretly thinking something about you. So generally speaking, we see people are much more forthcoming with it. And and you actually get to that clarity extremely quickly, like sometimes in a matter of minutes. It's like pretty crazy.
Is there like a Mark Manson button, or Mark Manson? Is there a button where we can get your voice to talk back to us?
Not yet. Maybe, but that might be coming.
Or is it really nice still?
It is nice.
Does it cuss?
No.
I have a lot of user feedback.
Okay.
I feel like this is a miss. I wanted it to be able to talk shit to me from the author of The Subtle Art of Giving a Fuck back.
We actually talked about this.
Okay.
And one of the things I told my co-founders, I was like, look, like I'm under no illusions that I'm the right person for everybody. Right. So I actually think if we put my personality on it, we would be limiting it. It would help fewer people. So it is not limited to me, but maybe we will get a Mark Manson button. Just a little button.
Yeah,
just be like, hey, fuck face.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull your head out.
Also, talk about viral feedback loops.
Yes.
Can you imagine those screenshots?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah. Come
All
on.
We'll
All right, let me on the cap table. I've got feedback. But I really like the idea, and I really commend my husband's the smarty on AI. It's not me. Mm-hmm. But I go just this weekend. I was with last weekend, whenever a sale was. And I was with all these guys who, like the guy who started Apptronic, the robot company, and I won't say anyway, like just a bunch of really big names in robotics and AI. And I had the funniest conversation. It wasn't from the CEO of Apptronic, but and the conversation kind of went like this. I was like, don't you think we should worry like a little bit about what we're building with AI? Because seems like happiness gone down, sex gone down, marriage gone down. Like social media has, like, by and large, us gluing our faces to the phones, by and large, incredible for productivity and like GDP growth. Yeah. Not so great for just being happy, like as humans, it seems like, or even procreating. Like the data is kind of hard to refute, I think, on that. So if that's true, I'm like, maybe, if they like neurochip ads into our brains, it would be not great. And so anyway, that seemed like reasonable to me. And as I was talking to this guy, who's a really nice guy that I like, he was like, well, I'm a tech optimist. Yeah. And I thought, yeah, like I'm an optimist too, but you could be cautiously optimistic, which also seems rational. And he's like, no, we'll just like figure it out. I go, well, we haven't exactly figured it out. So shouldn't we have these conversations and say, what are we building? Is this really a good idea? And how could we try to take all the knowledge we have of human psychology for millennia and realize that if this is an extension of human psychology, it's probably good to put some guardrails on it if at all humanly possible.
For sure.
So like, I commend that you're doing it, because his response was hysterical. It was like maximum mansplain. He goes, listen, come on Monday, I'll explain AI to you. I was like, get the fuck out. I was like, that's what I was like. I was like, I want to have my big dick energy. I'm like, I'm going to open my legs wider than you, buddy.
Yeah.
But I know, isn't that funny? I mean, and I'm not pretending I know very much about AI, but we've invested in a slew of companies, and even the best founders are concerned.
Oh, we spend like a ridiculous amount of time. The two big things we spend most of our development time on is privacy and guardrails, because it is such early days, and we are still learning so much about what is an appropriate use of this technology and what's not. And yeah, it's hard. There's some scary shit. So like we're constantly testing it. Like it's very, very high on our priority list. The one thing I will say to what you just said is, and this actually like relieved me. It's going to sound a little bit funny when I explain. When I started this company, I was very like, basically Raj is the engineer, the builder, built the team, built all the development team and everything. And then I was kind of the product guy. So I had a rough idea of like how this thing should talk, what it should sound like, what good tough love advice is, and what is just kissing your ass. And so I spent a lot of time working with the LLM directly, like on the eval system, the training data, all the system prompts, like trying to squeeze out of it, like what should come out of it. And I will say, after working very, very closely directly with an LLM for over a year now, my estimation of what they're capable of has dropped considerably. Like they're like brilliant idiots. like they will do multivariate calculus while doing a backflip and like spinning 2 plates on their fingers, but then, like their shoes will be on wrong. Like there's like so many situations like that there've been so many times where I've just been trying to get it to do like such a basic thing, and it'll take an entire afternoon. And I'm like, okay, there's no way this thing's taking over the world. Like it just like the fact that it can't even give me this like one text response when I specifically asked for it, it's like, okay, we're probably going to be okay for a while. So I do think there's a little bit of moral panic going on around it. I don't think they're quite as capable as most. I mean, I don't know how much you guys have been using AI in your business, but it's like a year ago, I was like so on the train of like, everybody on my team, you got to get good at AI right now. This is going to be part of every workflow. And 6 months later, we're like, oh, half of it is just trash. And
I do think garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. And it's actually very, very hard you have to be extremely skilled to get it to do what you want extremely well. And oftentimes the amount of effort it takes to get it to do something you want extremely well, you might as well just do it yourself. So
yeah, I'm still there sometimes too.
Yeah.
But we hired a whole AI specialist team. So it's actually so fun to work with them because they're also smarter than me at prompting. And because with AI too, you have to know, to go to your part about beautiful idiots or brilliant idiots, there is the plate spinner that is the best plate spinner of all time.
Yes.
But that you have to match with the back flipper sometimes. And you're like, oh, okay, the two of you together do some magic, but independently, Jesus.
Yeah.
There's like one other place I want to go with you today. Totally unrelated to AI, hard pivot, but you did start in dating, and I've always like respected the conversations we've had about you and your wife.
Yeah.
And how you choose partners. So I want to read you a couple quotes and get your feedback. You said, choosing a romantic partner isn't just about romance. You're also choosing a confidant, counselor, career advisor, therapist, investor, teacher, travel buddy, roommate, and business partner. Choose wisely. And the question I think is, does that still hold true for you? That was from quite a few years ago. And how exactly does one find this type of partner?
It's funny because when I posted that, I got a bunch of blowback of people like, oh, you shouldn't hold people to such high expectations. And I think like what gets missed is that it's not that you should go looking for all those things. It's when you choose to marry somebody, that's what you're getting. Whether you want it or not, that person, your spouse becomes all of those things for you. So you have to vet them beyond just how's the romance or how spicy is the sex. Like you have to think through like a lot of different personality traits. And I think it's absolutely true. I personally think marrying well is like the single highest leverage decision of your entire life. And also not marrying well is also a very high leverage decision. Like it is just the force multiplier on all of your outcomes across life. And it's not just your career outcomes, it's your happiness outcomes, it's your health outcomes, it's all sorts of things, your social life. A good spouse makes everything better, and a bad spouse will make everything worse.
It's so true. I totally agree. And I get shit about it on the internet too. And you know what else is scary? I'm always scared to give advice because I'm like, I don't know, check back in 40 years. See how we're doing. Like this is like, I'm kind of new at this. It's only been 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
Like let's chill, but we're doing good right now.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for a young person that is looking for what you have, which is somebody that is all of those things?
I think the biggest thing to look for is character. Again, yes, you want the romance, you want the sparks to fly, you want to be swept off your feet and all, like we all want that. It's great. Don't get me wrong. But you have to look a level deeper. You have to look at their character, their integrity. How good of a decision maker are they? Are they dependable? Are they trustworthy? Do they share your values? How's their relationship with their family? Like all these things matter. And obviously nobody's perfect. Like nobody's going to check every single box, but ideally you want to find somebody who checks most of them, and the ones they don't check, like you can work with it, you know?
Totally. Do you have like a couple questions you ask? Like I know we're both like we're a little baked now,
Yeah.
but but
We're boomers.
basically, fuck, shut up, Mark. But like, if you were given young you advice, the team actually asked me this the other day. I was like, I was having an existential crisis trying to answer it. But like, what if I only had 3 to 5 questions to sort of start sussing out, is this potentially my person or not? What are those?
Well, I will tell you, my favorite first date question that I recommend everybody ask is, ask the person you're on a date with, what did you learn from your last relationship? And the red flag is if the person starts going off about how horrible their ex was and how shitty they were, and oh my God, I can't believe I dated them for so long. Like that person, run far away. Get as far away as you can. What you're looking for is somebody who says, it was a complicated relationship. It was good for a while. Then things went bad. Here's why they went bad. Here was my part in it. This was their part in it. Somebody who has perspective and an understanding of like what went wrong, and who also has clearly like done some work since then to make sure that it doesn't go wrong again. I also love the question too, because if you ask it and the person kind of freaks out and gets really uncomfortable, that's also a signal, right? It's a signal that this is not a person who is comfortable opening up relatively quickly, who like doesn't want to go there.
You know what's crazy is that's the same thing for interviewing too. I always say, if like the person you are going to hire, if you ask them, like, tell me what happened in your last job. Like, why did you leave? Why did you choose to move on? If they start going negative, the company was terrible, the boss was awful, everything was ever. I have never once hired one of those people and had it work out. Not once. Every single time I wished I didn't hire them. Because I think the way that you treat the last person, the highest indication will be that you will be treated the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's such a good one. Okay, last one for you. You've also tweeted, the person you marry is the person you fight with. The house you buy is the house you repair. The dream job you take is the job you stress over. Everything comes with an inherent sacrifice. Whatever makes us feel good will also inevitably make us feel bad. What do you mean?
You can't escape the bullshit. you can't escape it. It's no matter where you go, there's gonna be some bullshit. So you just need to make sure that it's the bullshit you like having. It's the problems you are grateful that you have in your life. Again, I think people, they think about the benefits and the successes that they want. That's actually a very easy and uninteresting question. Everybody generally wants, like, everybody wants money. Everybody wants a great partner. Everybody wants to be liked and popular and, all these things. The question is like, what pain do you want? Like, what are you willing to give up? What struggles are you actually kind of okay having? Like, what challenges do you seem to do better with than most people? Like, that's actually where you get into who somebody is and like what makes you unique as an individual and what is ultimately going to serve you best as you move through life.
That's so good. I always say with goals, like, don't tell me what you want, tell me what you're willing to sacrifice to get them. But I've never actually asked. I've like proselytized on the internet about that, but I don't ever think I've actually asked somebody. Like, have you asked your wife or your friends or people you meet with those questions?
Like, what are you willing to give up?
Yeah. Like, what is the pain that you want? Like, what would be the way that you would even ask those questions to somebody? Because it's kind of hot. I need to go around. I need to go around and, you can take that question multiple ways, but like, I like it.
Yeah. It's, when I give talks, I say like, everybody is secretly a masochist about something. The question is just like, what do you want to spank you and call you daddy? By the way, this goes over great at like corporate conferences.
Do you say that?
You can imagine I get invited back all the time.
Google's like, bull him.
You and I probably have the most polar opposite corporate speaking experiences.
No, I tell all their employees to leave. And then you tell them who wants to spank them. You know what? I'll start bringing you along. Let's do a road show.
Yeah, we'd just be the anti-corporate speakers.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to frame it in those terms. It's a hard question. Like, I think nobody asks themselves. Nobody's asked it very often. It's like, what do you actually kind of secretly like? Like, what problem do you secretly like having? It's like a very interesting question that most of us don't think about. And, but yeah, I think the answer is extremely important.
What do you like?
The problem I secretly enjoy having, I mean, I'm a workaholic. Like I like the grind. I like climbing the ladder. Like, it's just fun. It's like, I told my dad once, you know, when I came back and I started scaling content and doing video and stuff online and launching a podcast and everything, my dad kind of pulled me aside and he's like, you know, why are you doing this? He's like, financially, you're pretty set. And I told him, I was like, Dad, it's like I found the best video game and there's always another level. Like, you never beat it. And he got it. He was like, okay, that's cool. That's a good reason to do it.
Oh, that's such a good place to end. Mark, this was incredible. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You'll make more money once you realize failure is just the entry price to eventual success. Respect is earned, not given. I wasn't deserving of respect, and if you're not getting respect right now, it might be because you need to have a little bit more dangerous of a demeanor. Sometimes a chip on your shoulder is worth more than a pat on the back. Stay cool on the surface, baby. Paddle like hell. Never apologize for trying really, really hard. Having a job is hard. Having a business is hard. Choose your heart. That thing in front of you at this moment that you think is going to break you might actually be the thing that is going to catapult you to the next level of the game. Welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. I want to talk to you vulnerably today about all the ways I've lost, the lessons I've learned in it, so you can get more comfortable with the truth and thus win more. If you're not failing enough and big enough, you'll never really win. So without further ado, welcome to the official Codie Sanchez lowlight reel, where I can teach you all the lessons and you can skip my scars. If you didn't get into the school that you wanted to get into, don't worry, I was the exact same way. In fact, I applied to all the big names, the Harvards, the Stanfords, the Yales, and shocking, I got into none of them. In fact, I barely got into Arizona State University, Harvard of the West, some might say. I think the only reason that didn't cripple me at that time was I had no money to go anywhere else. And so I went to Arizona State, and that actually ended up being the biggest win that I ever could have. What do you mean by that? Well, 60,000 students meant that I had to navigate not being that important, being a number. Nobody cared about me. Nobody was checking up on me. I wasn't special at all. And that meant that I worked really hard. I had 3 degrees by the end of it. I got a grant from the Howard Buffett Foundation, because when you're not special, but you have a chip on your shoulder, you have the opportunity to prove everybody wrong. And sometimes a chip on your shoulder is worth more than a pat on the back. So then, you might think, well, maybe it gets better afterwards. And once you're done with college, you're going to figure it out. Everything's going to be fine. Well, if you're like me, I had no jobs, you guys. Senior year of college, I had no jobs. I was too busy partying, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, going to frat and sorority things. And the only people that wanted to hire me were like the Associated Press for $18,000, which even back then was not enough money. And I was pretty scared. I thought I was going to have to move back in with mom and dad. I was super embarrassed. But maybe that thing that is your biggest fear leads you to do the irrational thing you would not have done otherwise. If I had an easy job come across my plate, maybe I wouldn't have pushed myself to do the irrational thing, which is I went to a finance conference. I sat next to a woman. She ended up being a recruiter for one of the biggest companies in finance in the world. It's called Vanguard. And I just got curious. Your willingness to ask questions and look stupid while everybody else tries to position themselves, especially when you're young, is what's going to make you stand out. The older you get, the more you realize you don't really know anything. And the younger you are, and the more you try to look like you know everything, the more foolish you actually look. So I sat next to her and was like, I don't understand anything. What do you guys do? How does that work? How does this go? What happened? She gave me a job offer. That job offer made like 3x more than my 18K, which was a lot at the time. And every single other person in this program, it's called an accelerated development program. Every single other person in it, they went to the Harvards, the Stanfords, the Yale. I was the only public school little kid nerd who was also a sorority girl in it. And if you've ever seen how like ducks look really calm on the surface, but they're paddling like crazy underneath it, that was me. So if that is you right now, that's okay. Stay cool on the surface, baby. Paddle like hell. Never apologize for trying really, really hard. That's what I certainly did. And I thought maybe I'd made it at Vanguard. But then what's going to happen is you're going to feel like this climb that you're on. Every single time you hit to the top, you hit the first peak, there's a big cliff on the other side. There's a ravine you have to go back down. My ravine was, at the end of that year process, you had to find your own job inside of Vanguard. And so they didn't just like give you another job after you went through the program. Somebody had to choose you inside of the company to come stay and work in their division. And I came up with an idea for the company. I brought it to the head of my division. The guy's like, cool, this seems like a cool idea. And then what happened? Well, he pulls me back in a couple hours later. I think I'm getting this job. He's like, we've cleared it. This is going to be awesome. You're going to go do this thing that you really want to do at our other campus. I'm like, great. He pulls me back in and he sits me down. I'm all excited. I've called my parents. I've told them already, like, what if I have to move to this new place, do this thing? And he goes, what do you think your colleagues think about you? And I was like, what? I thought we were talking about this job that I came up with and this cool thing that I could do. He's like, what do you think they think about you? I'm like, Ron, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, can you explain to me? And he goes, well, your colleagues think that you would leave dead bodies behind you to get ahead. I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, metaphorically, physically. I was like 110 pounds soaking wet back then. And I'm trying not to cry, candidly, because I don't know what to say to that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he basically said, well, you never come to the group lunches. You never plan group activities. Apparently when people come to your desk, you're like too busy to talk to them. They think that you're too good for them. Little did he know that the reason why I was doing all those things was because I was drowning. Like there were all these smart people who had finance degrees. I was like a journalism background trying to figure out how to keep up with Harvard and Stanford and Yale. And so, I wasn't like party planning because I was dying on the inside. So at the end, he said, so that job that you want to have, we're actually going to give it to this other person. And I remember going home and I was crying. I was super embarrassed. I didn't want to tell my parents because I had like proactively told them I was going to do this whole thing. But what's fascinating about that is if you flash forward 7 years, that same person who took that job from me, who's awesome and a friend now, she became my COO at another company. She worked for me. And so thankfully, the fact that they had been like, no, because you're not nice enough, you don't smile enough, you don't party plan, Cody, we're not going to give you this job. I was like, fuck you guys, I'm out then. Okay, fine. Not even like a couple weeks later, a recruiter calls me for the best company in the world in finance and investing at the time. It's called Goldman Sachs. And when I tell you that like normal kids like me didn't work at Goldman Sachs, like you don't have like a dad who didn't go to college and a mom who was a special education teacher and go to Arizona State and go work at Goldman Sachs. Like that just does not happen. So when the recruiter called me about this, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take this call. And I had such a big chip on my shoulder that I went ham through the interview process. I did everything you could humanly imagine. And I ended up making 3x my salary again. And that took me to Chicago and New York for one of the best investment banking firms in the world. What I learned from my mentor at Goldman Sachs that helped me get the next job was that no matter what you do, if you do one thing right, which is control what gets into your brain, control the inputs and what you consume, that leads to your outputs, aka how you succeed. And since I learned that, I've been obsessed with making sure I only listen to things that feed me. Things like this podcast. So if you're not already subscribed, this is your moment to do it, to steal all of my rich mentors' homework, like my mentor from Goldman Sachs, and make sure that you're not filling your brain with things that aren't going to give you the success you want in life. And so if you aren't already subscribed, if you're not already following us, if you're part of the 60% of humans that never achieve what they want to achieve fully, I would change that. And I would subscribe to the podcast. The lesson is, when you can get around people who are smarter than you, do it every chance you get, especially when it makes you uncomfortable. You become what you surround yourself with. So if you surround yourself with a bunch of people who aren't winning, who don't make any money, who aren't happy, who aren't married, who aren't having sex, guess what you ain't doing? None of those things. So thankfully, I went to Goldman Sachs, and again, it was this group of people who lived in worlds I've never understood. That was the first time I heard the term, we summer somewhere. I was like, we summer? I was like, I think everybody summers. There's like a summer, and it's a fall, there's this like a thing. What are you talking about? Then I heard all these fancy words, and people live, lives where they went to international schools. I didn't leave the country except to go to Mexico, probably when my parents didn't know it, until I was well out of college. I start working in Goldman. I climb my way up the ladder, and I'm the little duck paddling underwater like a crazy person. And what I learned there is, half the time, it's not what you know. It's not how you're doing. It's who you know, and even more, who knows you. I was working like crazy. And when I went to go to get promotion from kind of the miserable job that it is when you become an analyst, that's the low guy on the totem pole at Goldman Sachs, to trying to get to the next level of the game, it was like rejected, rejected, rejected. And I remember all these people getting ahead of me, and they were really good at a thing you should never feel bad for doing, which is self-promotion if you are good for real things you did. And I remember being pretty jealous at that time about a bunch of other people. And I was like, man, maybe it's me, maybe it's not everybody else. But thankfully, that led me to do some pretty crazy things. I ended up not asking my boss for permission and going to another boss in another division in another part of the company and saying, I want to come work here. I want to come work there. When I kept getting turned down, I kept going. Finally, one of them says yes to me. I'm like, sick. My boss sucks, but this person sees I'm great. And my boss shuts it down. He's like, I don't care that other person wants you. Again, I'm going to fill it with somebody else. I was like, son of a gun. I'm really doing something wrong here. So what happened? I leave. But where do I go? I'm like, well, this time I am apparently relatively unemployable. And so if you are also unemployable, just know that most entrepreneurs, the reason for your success will be a bad former boss. And so it's okay if you're semi-unemployable, if you don't like the people that you've worked with before. Have a little introspection to make sure if everybody's an asshole, what do we know? You probably are. So I'm sure I was in many ways back then. But then I went to State Street. And the way I went to State Street was different. This time I was like, okay, I want to be a boss. Not the boss, but a boss. I want to manage people. I want to lead a team. And I want to see if I'm any good at this. And are they bad or am I like unleadable? And so I wasn't really qualified for that at the time. And the best way to get something you are unqualified for is to show, don't tell, is to do proof of work, not proof of resume. And so what did I do? I went out to State Street. I looked at all these jobs they had outstanding. There was one that I thought I could do, which was in Latin America. And I put together an entire business plan. Here's how I would run this division. Here's the client list I would go after. Here's the scripts I would use. Here's the product I would sell. Here's the people I would hire for my team. Here was my budget. I just put together, like I did all the work. And I still didn't get the job. And then I did it 3 different times for 3 different people in 3 different roles at State Street until I swear to God, one of the guys finally called me and he goes, are you this Codie Sanchez girl that is calling all of us? And I said, yeah. I go, can you imagine what I'm going to do for you when I do this when I don't get paid? What do you think I'm going to do for you when I do get paid? And he was honestly like worn down, like a sad dad, after the kids just beating him up. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. He gives me a job. That job was pretty incredible because that was the first time I got to run my own little team. I got to have people report into me. But if you think I was good at it at first, you're out of your mind. I remember the first time I had to fire somebody, which was like my first employee too, whose name was Ryan. Sorry, Ryan. And Ryan was like straight up Bostonian. I lived in Boston at the time. And I remember nobody respected me. Like respect is earned, not given. I wasn't deserving of respect. And if you're not getting respect right now, it might be because you need to have a little bit more dangerous of a demeanor. It might be because you're not that impactful of an enemy, so you can't be a very good ally. And that was me. I wasn't really dangerous on either side of the coin. And so Ryan respected me about as little as a human could. And I remember one day we're at an event and he looks at me and I'm his boss. And he's like, you got any tattoos? And he's Bostonian, so he has an accent. And I at the time did not. And I'm like, I do not, Ryan. And he's like, I got one. I'm like, that's cool. I'm excited for you. And he's like, you want to know what it is? I'm like, I feel like you're going to tell me. And he responds, it's a squirrel reaching right up towards my... And I was like, Ryan, what the... Did you just... Are you... He goes, my nutsack. You get it? I was like, I do. I, in fact, do get it. Then he proceeds to ask me if I slept with anybody to get this job. And at that point, I'm like, we are backsliding here. This is not working out very well. He also proceeds to like not come in with these elaborate stories about why I'm getting in trouble because I got this liability on my hands. And it took me having the balls to do a thing that's like not very well lauded on the internet, which is tell somebody they're not a fit for your company. Like if you want to get hated quickly, go tell somebody that was hard for you to fire somebody on the internet. It doesn't go over very well. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to make crazy amounts of money, you're going to have to do something irrationally difficult. Your bank account is a reflection of the difficult decisions that you've made and the difficult conversations that you've had. The more difficult conversations you have, the higher the bank account you will eventually have. So that was my first little lesson. I was like, all right, now I got to figure out how to get somebody here who would actually, who I could be worthy of their respect. And I got to live up to that. So then I'm looking to leave State Street, Boston's amazing place. What up, Bostonians? Tell me if I got any of you guys who listen. But it's cold as fuck. And I'm from Arizona. And so I was so cold. I had lived in like New York and Chicago and Boston. Also highly recommend if you stay in the place that you were born, it is really hard to change the human who you were. Move often. See who you are. You can always go back, but at some point it's hard to leave. So see what it's like when you uproot your tree. So I was ready to leave Boston because I'm a wuss and it was too cold. And I'm looking for my next role. And so I want to switch into a different part of finance. And for you guys, I don't know if you've ever Like, you want to get to this next level, but like you can't see the bridge between the two. It's too far. Like, you're like, how do I get this ladder from where I am to what I want to be? What I want to be is like not reasonable for where I'm at, but I want to get there. And that was me. And that's when I really wanted to break into private equity. And so there's one firm at the time that was doing it really well. They're called Credit Suisse. They're not around as much anymore. But I wanted to work at Credit Suisse, and I wanted to run this division there like I was at State Street. And I had to interview in 3 continents with 12 different people. I had to pay and fly myself out to those locations to get the job. I still remember the way the guy laughed at me when I told him that I went to Arizona State. He thought it was a joke. He was like, because I made the Harvard of the West joke. He goes, oh, you did go to Harvard? I'm like, no, bro, I did go to Arizona State. Yeah. I got 3 degrees. He goes, do all of them combined equal a real one? I was like, this is going well. I think he likes me. I think we're probably going to get hired. Shocking, I don't get the job at Credit Suisse. And I'm actually kind of ticked because at that point, I was really qualified. Like, I already had the client list. I spoke multiple languages, English and Spanish. I knew the territory. I was already covering it. And they hire this other person. And I'm like devastated. But inside of the thing that I wanted more than anything else was that line from the Garth Brooks song, which is sometimes you should thank God for unanswered prayers. Because what that led to was me building my very first $1 billion in assets under management business in Latin America. I could have gone and been somebody else's employee, or I could have built my own company. And the reason why, again, a chip on a shoulder so big, it feels bigger than any back pat. So I go to a company called First Trust, which is awesome. And I'm loving it, and I'm building like crazy. And then I get divorced. And I'm like, everything's going so good. Total destruction of my life. Lose all my friends. Lose my house. Lose a bunch of money. Feel awful. I'm so embarrassed. We work together at the same firm. That was a real blast. I'm like the only female, not to play the woman card, but it is true. I'm the only female that runs a division there, and all the rest are dudes. So who do you think they like more? Spoiler, not this one. So anyway, they all side with him. I'm still there. It's a total nightmare. And yet I have built this big, huge business where like nothing had been built before. So I was like, you're gonna have to pry this out of my cold, dead fingers. I was like, what do I do? Now I have to like walk away from this huge thing that I built, or I have to like see him every day and kind of get these comments. And I remember like one of them in particular, one of the MDs, I will show it to you. We'll put you, if you see this in the YouTube video, I'll put it up there. I keep it to this day. One of the other, kind of directors like I was, sent me an email real late at night one night. And it just said, you are dumbing down the firm. I'm glad you're happy, but you're ruining the mission that we're on. Something to that effect. You can see the exact words here. You're dumbing down the firm. That's the part that I remember more than anything else. And I remember thinking, motherfucker, like, I'm too tired for this. Like, I'm tired. I'm beat up. It hurts. My heart hurts. I just feel like I'm getting kind of attacked on all sides. And I'm like, I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to leave. And I talked to a couple other people at the firm. They're like, you're crazy. You can't leave. You built this all up. Like, you already lost all this other stuff. You're going to lose this too. So instead, I start dabbling in my side hustles, my little side hobbies. And like, they start growing. And I start that's just when I start buying companies. If you know anything about what I do online now, I started buying up these little companies. And I realized, whoa, thank God I didn't buy these while I was married, because that motherfucker would own part of them. So I was like, that's sick. Okay, now I got these side things that are actually making me a ton of money. That helped because, I'm expensive. And so I was like, I can't leave this firm and not have any money, and I don't want to live on my couch, and I like nice things. And I think they lie to you guys when they say that you have to live on your couch in order to have success. I do not think you have to do that. I think you have to do very hard things, but I don't think you have to go to the point of bankruptcy and breaking and all of that in order to win. And so these things are like making some money. I'm like, this is cool. What a win. If I hadn't gotten divorced, if him and I hadn't gone through that, if all those people at the firm weren't really mean to me, I wouldn't have tried to like get a little safety raft going. Then, of course, what happens? I start getting a little notoriety. Like, they're covering Codie Sanchez doing this in Latin America. I'm on a magazine cover. That's cool. Well, the CEO comes to me and says, I want to take a walk, which, spoiler, you guys, not a great sign ever. So I'm like, oh God, I'm fired. And takes me on a walk and he basically says, at this company, we get rich quietly, Codie. And I thought, why can't we like get rich together? Why can't we all talk about what we're doing? I totally disagreed with him. He's like, well, listen, I got a boat and on this boat, we're rowing left. And if you want to row right, you got to get your own boat, but you can't stay on mine. And now as a CEO, I understand it. Back then I was like, who do you think you are? But I get it. He's right. Those weren't my chips. That wasn't my boat. He has every right to go the direction that he wants. So I had to leave the company. I basically got pushed out. But you know what that led to? I went to another company. I raised $100 million for that company. And we had a huge fund in an industry that historically didn't. I got 3 new partners. I was no longer a director, which is like a level here. I was a partner, baby. I was like in the game. I was a player. And that was awesome. And we had one fund and it had incredible returns. And then we have another fund and it's doing great. And I think I'm kind of like on high, right? And at each stage of these, you guys, my network is stacking up, it goes down a little bit, goes back up higher, goes down a little bit, but even higher. And then at this stage, I do a thing that I really hope you do consistently, which is I tell them, I think we need to take money off the table. We're winning. We're like winning big. And if you learn one thing about money, it should be save some for when it stops shining. You need to have a little cash for a rainy day. And so I was like, man, guys, we're doing so well. We're crushing it. I don't think this is sustainable. I think we better put some cash on the side and move it over. And I remember I was the youngest of the 3. There were 2 ladies at the time, but I was the youngest by far. And they were like, you're out of your mind. Like, this is going to the moon. We're going to crush it. Don't keep talking. We have more experience. We've seen this before. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and they wouldn't listen to me. And so I was pretty upset and I let that be known. And I thought I was right. And then one of my employees calls me and he's, what's up, LJ? If you hear this, LJ's the man. And LJ calls me and he's like, hey, I think they're going to fire you. I was like, they can't fire me. I own part of this place. What do you mean fire me? He's like, they're like digging up, trying to find something on you so that they can push you out because you think that we should do X and you're really pushing for that investment committee. They don't think your vision's aligned with theirs. I'm like, well, first of all, a truth that I've come to agree with, which is when you have something hard to say it to somebody's face. No matter what, you will have more respect for not going around somebody else's back and instead having the cojones, as we would say in Spanish, to say it straight up. So I thanked LJ and then I got invited to a dinner with one of the partners. Now, I'm not very scary. You can see me. But my husband is scary. He is a former Navy SEAL. And not only does he have the scariest of Navy SEAL resting bitch faces, he is also jacked and a pretty big dude and also knows a lot about weapons, like an odd amount about weapons. And everybody knew that at my firm. But I knew the guy that was going to try to pull this one over on me, where he was going to try to sort of strong arm me out of the company at this dinner and try to tell me like, he kind of thought he could intimidate me, I think, which to be fair, you guys, throughout your entire life, there will be people that try to use their intimidation, their aggression, their whatever to make you feel less than. And when that happens, you have to figure out, is this a moment that I hold a wall or am I made of paper? And those moments where you stand up and you realize that you are not made of paper, they're the moments where life really changes. I remember shaking on the way to this dinner. It was actually here in Austin at a hotel, and Chris came with me. And so I was like, here's my plan. He thinks I'm going to come to dinner, just me and him. And he's going to try to, like he usually does, either yell at me or intimidate me or blackmail me. I don't know what's going to happen. And you're going to come, Chris. And you're not going to say anything, except you're just going to sit there and look scary. And then if he doesn't let me talk, like he sometimes doesn't let me talk, you're just going to put your hand on his shoulder and you're going to say, I'm going to need you to let my wife speak. And he's going to be scared. And when I tell you the joy of my life that happened to you guys, when we get to this hotel, we go to stand in there. This gent, who I won't say his name, sees me. I see his eyes flare because he sees Chris too. And then he comes up, oh, hi, hugs. And then goes, you know what? I gotta go to the bathroom really quickly. And I peek around the corner and I watch as he gets on the phone, I'm sure, to call the other partners and go, oh no, Codie's husband's here. I don't know if this is going to go exactly the way we want to. I don't know if I'm going to be able to strong arm her. I don't know what they actually said. Anyway, we come back out and I lay it on the table. And I'm like, he starts talking about something. And I'm like, my mom has a great line. She says, 99.9% of the time, when I ask you a question, I already know the answer. You have the ability to tell me a truth or a lie here. Your choice. And his face was like, what? And so then I told him, I know that you're trying to push me out of the company. Don't ask me how I know it. I know. I know you're trying to dig up something to make me look like the bad guy. And it's not going to happen. So you have two options. One, you get out of the way and you resign. Or two, you give me a buyout option. But there's no three. So it's one or two. And he's like, well, you can't force that. And I said, I think my attorney can. And so we can choose. That non-paper wall led me to the very first time, you guys, maybe past any point that normal entrepreneurs do it, doing something completely on my own. For 15 years, I had worked for other people. I had worked with other people. I had done stuff with other people in finance, and I didn't really love the people in finance. And this was the first time that big, scary moment where I almost got pushed out, where he tried to blindside me, turned into me putting up a not paper wall. And if you think it all gets better, the second that you have your own business, I'm going to let you in to a surprise. Having a job is hard. Having a business is hard. Choose your hard. Having a partner is hard. Not having a partner is hard. Choose your hard. Everything is hard. So even though I started then my own company and built that company profitably and grew it a ton and had more success than I'd ever had in my entire life and more freedom than I'd ever had in my entire life, I also had more pain than I'd ever had in my entire life. At one point, I had a partner who wanted to stop working, but wanted to keep part of my main company. The only way that I could get him to stop is I had to pay him $1 million. I had to go through lawsuits and back and forth and gnarly letters until finally I said, I will pay you $1 million to just leave. Just like stop working because you're just in the way of everything. Just get out of here and here's $1 million. So that was my first probably $1 million payout. And so it doesn't get easier as you get bigger, but you do start to build up this armor of no's and can'ts and shoulds until eventually it almost stops bothering you. Eventually, you won't get bothered by the things that bother you today. Like there's some magic that happens the more you get in entrepreneurship. It's like lifting in the gym. In the beginning, maybe 5 pounds, kind of a lot. Then it's 10, then it's 15, then it's 20. Then at some point you cannot even reconcile that 5 pounds used to be enough because you keep having gains and gains and gains. And it is the same thing in the game of success, money, life, and business. The more difficulty you have, the more burden you can carry. I don't ever think it gets easier. You just get better. And so you shouldn't ask for an easier path. You should ask for the ability to shoulder more. Those are what my prayers sound like. It doesn't sound like give me all this money, make it easier for me. It usually sounds like give me the strength and confidence to believe that this is possible for me. Give me the ability to do this task or to learn more intelligently until I can. Please don't give me problems and tasks that I cannot handle right now, but give me the ability to learn how to handle the ones that I do have. And then like at some point, in your life, you will have a moment in which you think you will lose everything you have built. You know, when you're young, you actually don't have much to lose. You have something called ego risk that you could lose, reputational risk that you could lose. But you don't actually have a mortgage and kids and finances and overhead at your company. You don't have all this big, huge risk that's hard to understand when you're young. But eventually you will. I've never met an entrepreneur that hasn't had a moment that almost broke them. And usually the joke when I tell that story is somebody in the crowd will go, only one? Because you're going to have many moments like that. And this was one such moment where I had built the company, I was doing all the things, but I had another member of my company running some of the finances. That person was either inept, incompetent, or fraudulent. And I didn't realize it, but we were a few weeks away from being completely out of money. I am talking about employees that I couldn't pay. I am talking about having to shut it down. I am talking about complete and utter loss and so much fear about what that would look like, especially when you wrap up your identity into what you were, a business owner, a CEO, or whatever. And I was so scared for that to happen. And I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember talking to my dad at that point and saying, what do you do when you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to next. And he calls that your head in the hands moment, when you're sitting alone on the couch in the dark with no idea what to do next. And he said, you're not in the game if you haven't had that moment. You're not in the game of success if you haven't felt completely lost, if you haven't felt like you were going to lose it all, if you haven't been completely mortified at the idea that you might not make it. If you have, then you're in the game, baby. But if you haven't, then you aren't taking big enough risks. That one little risk, I think without it, all of the companies I have today, all of the opportunity would have never been there, because you cannot have financial success with multiple zeros if you have no system of oversight to make it. Almost losing everything built the foundation to make sure I never do that again. Almost losing everything meant that I understood how to run a real company, not how to have hope, luck, and a prayer. So that thing in front of you at this moment that you think is going to break you might actually be the thing that is going to catapult you to the next level of the game. There's a quote that I love by Austin Butler, and I want to play it for you here.
I was at a party once and I was dancing and they said, embarrassment is an underexplored emotion. Go out there and make a fool of yourself. Go for it. Like, feel that feeling, the fear of cringe. That's really go out there and do it.
The truth of the matter is, you shouldn't be scared about failing. You should be scared about looking back at yourself 10 years from now and thinking, I haven't changed at all. Take the big leap, do the thing, because the only real failure is never actually trying. And it's not just me that says this about failure. Listen to Kobe Bryant, the man himself.
If you fail on Monday, the only way it's a failure on Monday is if you decide to not progress from that, right? So to me, that's why failure is not existent. Because, if I fail today, okay, I'm going to learn something from that failure and I'm going to try again on Tuesday.
What I love about that quote is he's right. He does it for the love of the game, not the win or loss of the game. I think when everybody, says your name, they think what I think, which is, how do I steal her butt? Immediately. Okay. So I think we should start talking about first, like, it's pretty incredible. Like, you have all these methodologies you use. But for us women, we have a hard time activating our glutes in particular. And I didn't know that was a thing until I started going down your rabbit hole of mind-muscle connection and how important that is for glutes. And so for normies like me who've never done anything like this, how does one steal a Sonata butt?
You got to put in the work.
Dang it, there's still three steps.
It's not easy. There's no magic pill, unfortunately. I say that the magic pill is in the work that you're trying to avoid. So do the work. And unfortunately, like, glutes are a big muscle, so they need a lot of work. But mind-muscle connection is one of the biggest things that I've always employed, which is you touch, you think about the muscle that's working, you are present with the muscles that are working, in this case your glutes. You'll see me on a lot of videos, I'm like touching whatever area, and mostly glutes that I'm working out, because there is a correlation, as you probably know, with mind to body and body to mind. It basically sends those signals up to the brain that we're working these muscles, so let's activate them. And then to get more, if you want to know more like technical aspects of it, there is, in my book, a way to work out your glutes that is effective. So including things that are like a squat or a lunge, which are moving in one vector, and then doing RDLs like hip hinge exercises, and then going into vertical vectors like step ups, doing abduction, which is working your side booty, upper booty, and then a hip thrust, which is like that contractor. So employing all of these different aspects and then hitting it, like 3 times a week. For me, it's really important because it is the biggest muscle in your body and will burn more calories and will help you health-wise.
Yeah, I like that.
As well.
And so basically if we've never heard of that before, mind-muscle connection, the first activation is you touch it. So if I'm like trying to move this part, I actually touch it with my finger. Yeah. And why does that actually help? Like, how have we gotten so disconnected from our muscles?
Because we're thinking about, what am I going to have for dinner? What TV show I'm going to watch, or, the children have, this sport and that activity. We're busy. So we are not in our bodies. Most of us are like, watching a series or something while we're working out or listening to music, or I don't even listen to music anymore because I want to be present with what I'm doing in that moment. That's like my moving meditation in a way, not to discount actual eyes closed and bringing it to, internally, but that's my moving meditation. That's one of the reasons, especially nowadays, that we've become so disconnected. But there's also a chemical process, if you will, that happens when you do actually touch. All of a sudden your brain is like, oh, that's being worked. Like, it's actually a chemical process that's occurring as well, not just a woo-woo that I'm touching them. Yeah.
Look, running a podcast or any content operation is a grind. The editing, the clipping, the captions. It's enough to make anyone quit before the fun even starts. Enter Riverside. This tool is your content powerhouse. Forget decent quality virtual calls. Riverside gives you 4K video, pristine audio, and makes deadweight tasks disappear faster than bad ideas. Their text-based editor slashes, silences, and edits errors with one click. Needing some extra clips? Riverside's AI Magic Clips finds the moments people actually care about and delivers them to you. No guessing, no endless replays. And here's the kicker. You don't even need to record in the platform to use its features. You have the option to upload your footage to Riverside, letting it handle the heavy lifting. So you can save your brain power for the creative stuff. So stop drowning in edits, get busy creating, hit the link in the description, use code Cody, and thank me later.
When you talk about moving meditation, I went down a rabbit hole of your stuff. You've talked about this a lot. But I think a lot of us, when we're in the gym, we're like, this is painful. I want to pretend I'm not here. I want to distract myself. And yours is kind of the opposite. So explain what that is.
It is. So I'm maybe gluten for punishment, but when my mind goes there, like, this sucks, like, I want to get out of here, I'm actually, no, you're going to slow it down. And you're going to add two reps on top of that.
Oh, God.
Just so that, again, I'm kind of bringing it back to the body and not running with the thoughts that are taking over my mind in the moment. Listen, if you watching TV or listening to music or whatever you need to do in the meantime gets you to get moving and work out, do it. If that's the only way that you're going to do it, do it. But if we're talking about then maximizing like your results and talking about like the nitty gritty, then yes, you'd want to kind of fully concentrate on what you're doing in that particular moment.
Yeah. When you grew up in Albania, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you left when you were a teen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you into fitness and kind of the same Sonata there that you are here, or did something change?
Yeah. I've been an active kid, so I've always been like on trees and, you know, climbing to get like the ripest fruit, which I saw some tangerines outside and I stole a couple.
You did it right.
I did because it just, I don't know, it brings back like such good memories of that part of the childhood. So I've been an active child, but I didn't excel at sports. I played every sport imaginable, but I wasn't like an excellent athlete because I think one of the things there is that when I got into the sports, like as a teenager, it wasn't for the right reasons. I just wanted to work out, be as skinny as possible, as thin as possible. So it wasn't like I want to be just a good athlete. And now it's become to like I want to be the best athlete that I possibly can at this point in my life. But yeah, that was an active child, super active child, to now doing what I do.
What's Albania like? I've never been. What was it like growing up there?
So Albania was a communist country at that time, where when I was born and well into like my early years. It was tough. It was waiting in line for ration food, placing, you know, a water bottle in a very long line of people to claim your spot so you'd get your ration food. And then with the turning over of like communism to democracy, quote unquote, that also presented a lot of issues. There was a civil war that broke out. You know, I would stand in line for like, I mean, it sounds surreal sometimes, right? For a loaf of bread and being like passing out, being elbowed by adults because, you know, you had only a limited amount of food that was being distributed at that point in time. So you just had to fight for it, literally like survival, like literal survival. So yeah, that even though, you know, my mom was a professor, my dad was a doctor, you are slightly better off than other people in the sense that, you know, my dad would get extra payment in the way of a sheep or or some chickens, you know, so sometimes you'd have that little surplus, if you will. I can remember like as clear as day, like the first can of soda that he brought home because somebody had gotten it from somebody that gave it to him, literally like a can of soda that me and my two younger sisters split into 3 little espresso cups, and I can still taste that in my mouth. And yeah, so it
that's very different than LA today.
Yeah, it is. And like living this reality right now where, you know, I'm training Kim Kardashian, and I have a couple of businesses that I run, and I would say, yeah, like a very successful individual, like that almost seems like whose life was that? But it was very much my life.
Do you remember like the line? Do you remember the lines? Do you remember those moments?
Oh, they're like, I keep getting chills as I speak about it. But yeah, you get me emotional. Yeah, I remember the lines very vividly. I passed out in one of those lines, like, you know, waiting for bread and in the dry heat of Albania, probably 8-10 years old, you know.
Oh my
yeah.
God. And were you there by yourself with your family?
I was the oldest of 3.
3 girls?
3 girls. So
Wow.
I a lot of the time assumed the responsibilities of the household. I was like, I consider myself as like the boy of the house, you know. I was that tomboy that I wanted to protect and to care for the family and for my sisters and my mom. I forget the question.
No, it was a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the reason why you care about being so strong now? Is that?
It is absolutely one of the main reasons why I, okay, I thought we were going to talk about business.
I started with a butt and now I'm talking about breadlines. But
it's truly, it's so multifactorial. It is, caring for my sisters, my younger sisters. It is caring for my mom, who had she had me at 19, and a child very much herself, who was dealing with her own, history of anxiety and whatnot. And to have a kid that young, I had to at times be her parent as well, so I think that's one of the main reasons why empowering women to step into their strength and really embody who they're supposed to be at their fullest is so important to me. That
it also makes sense why you've attracted these millions of people that follow you online, because it's so much deeper than aesthetics. I mean, I had followed you, and you are a very strong woman physically, but going through that mentally and emotionally at such a young age, incredibly rare. How did you guys get out of Albania and get to the US?
It was at the height of that civil war that I was talking about. It was,
and this is where it was Albanians versus, there was like,
it was Kosovo that went to, like Serbia went to war with Kosovo. Actually, let's take a step back. It was a little bit before that. It was like 2 years before that, if I remember correctly, where this like civil unrest, people broke into the armories where they hold, is that the armories where they hold the guns and everything, weapons, and they were literally just shooting at each other like targets, like,
and it was racial based or religion based.
It wasn't anything. It was just a rebellion against the government, against there were some pyramid schemes that went on that stole people's money. So it was just like, I was young at the time, so the full story, but it was, those are like kind of the main components. It was just turnover from communism. It was just something that had built up over that time. So like that, the pyramid schemes, and then people were just literally shooting at each other, or were making targets of something, like, can you make that shot? So I remember clear as day when that started, like going under the bed and like hiding for cover, because it was just it was extremely scary. I don't even know how all of us in my family made it out alive. We fortunately, to go back to your question, fortunately won the lottery to actually come here legally. So we were equipped with a green card, which very fortunate as compared to other people. So right away we had the green card. Then we got our passports, and that came at a time that was needed.
Did you speak English?
I was the only one in the family that spoke English, because I had taken some courses, some private English courses, not one-on-one, but like group courses that were outside of school hours. So, that came again with the responsibility of like having to translate, at 14, 15 for my parents, and had to carry them through. I was the only one to,
And do they all live here now?
They're in New York. Yeah, they live here.
Oh my Lord.
They're better equipped now, so thankfully.
You said, Mom, learn some English.
Yeah.
Incredible. And what's fascinating is I want to talk a little bit about the app and the business that you have too, because it translates to so much more than physical strength, which is really one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on. Everybody knows you on the internet for your strong body and these videos that you do that are very easy to understand about how to get strong and beautiful for women. Like, you could be strong and fit and feminine, and yet there's so much depth here. And so you could have quote unquote, just started another workout app, but instead you decided to do something a little bit different. Will you talk about that? And now it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of areas in our lives, especially in women's lives, that are sometimes spoken and unspoken that we would like a little bit of help with and a little bit more direction. I mean, there's so much information out there nowadays that it's so overwhelming to decipher through. I mean, God knows how many reels my mom sends me on a daily basis.
Oh, me too.
I'm like, Mom,
forget
put
about
your
like
phone
children
down.
and perimenopause now. It's like we have to know everything.
Yes. So you have to be an expert. You have to be your own advocate. You have to maybe have a medical degree and a lawyer. You have to be a lawyer maybe in some situations, a law degree. So the idea is to really help women with not just fitness. I think fitness is paramount. It is, taking care of our health is probably one of the most important investments that we'll ever make in our life. But I think there are so many other areas that we need expertise on, like true expertise that you can kind of go in one place and find all of this versus scouring the internet or versus getting fed all of this sometimes very contradicting information.
Yeah. And so the app's called We Rise.
Yes, we rise together, or together we rise.
I like it.
Yeah.
And the idea is there's fitness on it, but you're going to have a bunch of women speak on different subjects.
Yes. And have actionable items, not just speak. So, somebody's speaking at you, but actually giving you tools that you can implement to achieve goals that you're working on. So whether that is changing your mindset or navigating through careers, changing careers, or creating your own brand, that's coming in 2025. What we do have now is an expert in habits and a nutritionist expert as well to help you, with even things like what are macros? How many macros should I be consuming?
Did I need this app? It's so overwhelming.
It's
and a lot of it's
simple.
not for women. Like I have buddies that are all your buddies too that are health experts, but most of them are men. And so, it's intermittent fasting. Well, it turns out that's not that great if you're trying to get pregnant, for instance. I had no idea.
It's not that great. Period. If you're, especially when you're hitting your late 30s and early 40s, it is just not a good idea because of our hormones. Our hormones are much different than men's hormones, and that can wreak havoc in our hormonal system. So, I used to, a long time ago, intermittent fast, and I've changed that because, naturally I wasn't like a breakfast eater, but now I kind of make myself have that 20 to 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning, 30 minutes within waking up, so that I can tell my body basically, we're good. We have some nourishment. We don't have to go into the fight or flight mode, because as women, we are predisposed to go into that mode. We work out of the sympathetic system more so than the parasympathetic. So that, and that kind of helps start the day that way.
To really be simple here, what's the right way to start the day breakfast-wise as a chick? What should we be eating in the morning?
Make sure you're eating like 30 grams if you can of protein in the morning to just start you off, because your body is looking for that protein, for all those amino acids, for all those nutrients. To keep it simple for myself, like, I don't have time to cook first thing in the morning, so I'll make a protein smoothie that's also very digestible, absorbent, meal that you can make quickly. I throw in, it's pretty simple, blueberries to get a little bit of fiber. I throw in some protein in there, protein powder, either almond milk or oat milk, unsweetened usually. And what else? I throw in some nuts. I throw in my creatine in there. And I think that's pretty much it.
What's the deal with creatine? People are really excited about it right now and seem to think that people should be taking creatine.
Yes. For a long time, see, I don't jump onto like supplements right away. I like to like see the data and see where it's going before first of all, let's back up. Supplements are not necessary unless you are lacking in nutrition. I always go nutrition first, make sure that that's on point, and then you can see where you can supplement. It turns out that creatine is a pretty important supplement, not just in muscle growth, but in brain health as well. So I've started myself adding creatine to, especially as, get a little bit older and, we want to really keep that muscle on. We want to grow that muscle, that strength, as well as keep our cognitive functions in check. Yeah. And creatine helps with that a lot.
Yeah. You said before that one of the things that's a pet peeve of yours is that women say, hey, when I go lift, I'm going to become really bulky.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that? Is that what happens with women? We work out, we instantly get huge muscles.
Huge. No, I mean, it's how we're built, like our hormones do not allow us for us to become that big naturally. I'm sure there is steroids and other anabolics that like people can use that can do that, and that's their choice. And maybe that's the fear there, because people see some of these bodybuilder women that and when you go to certain classes of bodybuilding, then they're almost like forced to take them, and you're not going to become that, because that is not being done naturally. Mm-hmm. Just lifting, eating properly will not get you to that point. It'll get you to be healthy, to grow healthy muscle that you need for quality of life, for quality longevity. I mean, muscle to me is a currency. It's a currency to health. That's how I see it. And it used to be, again, how can I be as thin as possible because of these thin models? Now I'm like, how can I put as much muscle as possible while I can, so that I can prevent anything that might be detrimental to my health down the road,
Yeah, it seems like more women are working out these days with weightlifting, but it's still not that common. Like, of my girlfriends, maybe 10% I can think of actually like to lift. Why do you think lifting is so important for women?
Health, longevity, preventing osteoporosis, preventing sarcopenia, like muscle loss, like preventing all of these diseases that are at the top of the list from which women die from, because you want to prevent the fall, or you want to be able to get up from a fall, and those are and weightlifting, it's so important to do right now, or wherever you're at, whatever point you're at. It is so important, whether you're in your 20s, but then it becomes even more important when you're in like 30s and 40s and 50s and so on, to lift relatively heavy, I would say, with great form. It's our health.
How do you know if you're lifting heavy or not?
So usually heavy, it's all relative, but I would say if in a program you're recommended, let's say 12 reps or 8 reps, heavy means going up until that 8 or 12 rep, and you're not able to go any further than that. Maybe you have 1 or 2 more reps in the tank, but you're basically AKA going to failure, and that's considered heavy, while maintaining great form. Great form. You don't want to compromise form for the weight that you're lifting.
When I knew I really liked you on the internet? When I saw that you also wear your hair up to the gym. I go to like Collective, and there's a whole thing there in Austin, and everybody's like all dolled up in the gym. Have you noticed this trend? And the hair down. No, you don't have that long hair, but I'm immediately judgy. If I see like a woman working out with her hair all the way down, I'm like, oh no. I'm never going to look that cute. So I'm immediately judgy of it. But you talk a lot about intensity too in your workouts. Like, how important is it how hard you go? Should you be sweating? Does any of that matter? Is it just, do you have to go fast? What does like a workout look like in your mind?
Yeah.
That's ideal.
I go hard and heavy.
And you're sweating? Are you sweating?
I grunt. I do. I'm one of the people that sometimes by like the last rep or two, I don't maybe look like that in the videos.
No, I've never heard a grunt. Can we confirm?
I don't want to be too distracting. I do breathe heavy, but yeah, I think intensity is as important as like lifting heavy. But and then when it comes to intensity, are you talking about like when you're lifting heavy, or are you talking about like high intensity, like training, interval training, or all of
the above? Yeah, my husband always says that you can't, like, I go to the gym and I do the reps, but I'm probably not going as hard as I should. Maybe not as heavy, maybe not as fast, maybe too many breaks.
Well, breaks. Fast, you don't have, slow is fast and fast is slow. So like lifting slow actually will help you with that mind-muscle connection even further. So slow down the movements and then think about touching, feeling, thinking about the muscles that are working. So you don't have to go, yes, don't go fast, go slow. When it comes to, yes, most people don't lift as intensely as they probably can because they're afraid, again, especially women, of bulking. And I would say test yourself, test what that 12 rep to failure is. Like, how close are you to that? Like, if you're doing, say, bicep curls, or if you're squatting, can you do 20, 30? Then you probably need to say it's time.
Too light.
It's too light.
Okay, fine. You've talked about, you train Kim Kardashian, which maybe a few people know on the internet who that is, and other
Just a few.
just a few, and other
350 something million.
wild. Also, like, ultimate businesswoman.
Hopefully I didn't get that wrong.
I think she's fine. I think she's doing good. But incredible businesswoman, as are you too. What is it? How did that start? Like, how do you start training celebrities? How do they find you? What is that like working with celebrities?
She found me.
She slid into your DMs?
She slid into my DMs, literally. Well, not her, but her people. Her people initially. I've had the honor and the pleasure of working with a few celebrities, including a queen of a country.
That's wild.
That was wild. Yeah, very wild. And she's still a really good friend to this day. But surreal. Yeah, they approached me because I was never in the business, if you will, of training celebrities. I never even thought that, this little old me could do that. But yeah, the opportunities have kind of come across because at the end of the day, I've always been of the belief I'm going to put my best self out there. And I find, like, with like aesthetics come if you put in the work. Yeah. All the good things in business come if you put in the right kind of work. So, yeah.
Yeah. You also, I think, you mentioned some really raw and honest things in your life about depression and how fitness helped you with that. And then obviously what you shared earlier, what happened before? Were you depressed, and did fitness help you get out of it?
I found out later in my life that I have a genetic predisposition to that. And I guess you could have, realized that by seeing that my mom suffered from anxiety, and I guess she told me that her father also did have. So, you can see kind of a pattern, but that I got